So these are the insects that's usually on your strawberries.
Come again?
So far we got some mites. And it's pretty normal if you want fresh organic vegetables and fruits, they're gonna have bugs on them. Let's see how much are when you rinse them or wash them off. Ooh, looks like just rinsing them for a few seconds got rid of a lot of the insects. Now I will say, even though you wash them off on the outside, there's still the inside, which I'm sure contains plenty of insects, because they burrow themselves in.
Prosthetics actors were forced to wear. When Jim Carrey played the Grinch, he said he had to sit through 8 hours of painful makeup sessions every day. He said putting on the makeup felt like he was being buried alive. The suit was so itchy and painful that after the first day of filming, he kicked a hole through the wall and was going to quit the movie. So Jim Carrey hired a CIA expert who trained him on how to deal with torture. Buddy Ebsen played the original Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. However, you never actually see him in the movie. This is because the original Tin Man outfit and makeup contained real aluminum, which is extremely toxic. This caused Buddy to be rushed to the hospital where he almost died.
Oh. Those actors, man. Those prosthetics.
Top 5 countries with the longest school days. Australia, 6.5 hours. France, 8 hours. South Korea, 8 hours. Kenya, 8 hours. China, 9.5 hours.
Here's why you should stop rubbing
that.
your eyes.
That was no joke. You seriously need to stop rubbing your eyes as much, and here's why. Trust me, you might want to favorite this video because you might need this as a reminder in the future. Let's be honest, we're all guilty of this at some point. But I bet you didn't know that continually rubbing your eyes can actually cause really bad damage to your cornea. In fact, it can thin out your cornea, causing it to bulge. I mean, let's go back to the MRI footage. This is someone rubbing their eye, visibly being able to see the pressure it puts on your eye, and the way that the eye can actually change shape, increasing the pressure on your eye by 20 times. And it gets worse if you rub your eyes with your knuckles or the back of your hand. So although the occasional rub probably won't do you any harm, consistently doing it and consistently doing it hard could lead to potential vision loss. So saying this to literally anyone you know, because for their eyes' sake, they need to see this. Elon!
This woman who recently competed in the Olympics in Paris was just murdered. This is 27-year-old Rebecca Cheptegei, and she was a marathon runner in Uganda. Rebecca competed in the women's marathon in the Olympics, and she finished in 44th place. Not long after returning from Paris, on August 31st, she was set on fire by her boyfriend. They identified this man as Dixon Edema, and apparently they were arguing over a piece of land. The attack happened outside of Rebecca's house, and it was said that her daughter tried to help her and save her, but this man had kicked her and also tried to beat her as well. It was said that Rebecca was found by neighbors who heard the arguing, and they were the ones who put out the fire. These burns were so severe it covered 80% of her body, and that's why she did not survive. But her boyfriend was also burned, but it only covered about 30% of his body, and he is now in stable condition. This is so sad, and violence towards women in Uganda is very common. There's actually been a few athletes who have been murdered by their partners in the last few years.
Maps that will...
That needs to change, man. She was literally in the Olympics, and then her whole freaking life trajectory changed, man. Justice for her.
Change the way you see the world. This is a unique visual that shows what the Roman Empire citizens believed was the entire world. This is what Chile looks like stretched across all of Europe. This is what all the uninhabited land in the United States looks like. This map shows the largest employer in each US state. These are the average train speeds across Europe. This map shows the distribution of ticks that are infected with Lyme disease across the United States. This map shows in the United States how many people commit violent crimes per 100,000 residents. This is a topographic map of Europe. This map shows the percentage of population in each Europe country that has never used the internet before. This map is comparing the populations of cities in Greece and Turkey, with each little square representing about 250,000 people. This map shows the most popular streaming services across all the countries in Europe. Can you guess where this puzzle piece is from? You're able to guess what country this is just by the shape.
If you haven't heard about this,
I couldn't get those last two. Could you?
Police across the world are warning people of this literally as we speak, and you would never even realise you've been scammed
until this. So there is a new scam which only takes one person to do it in one simple move. And what it does is allow hackers to get into your phone, get access to all your personal information, cards, any single thing you own. So how this works is you'll get a package outside your door, like you would, from a brand. It could be Amazon, it could be pretty little thing, anything that you're buying.
Okay.
It could be from a company that you buy stuff from regularly, so you just think, oh, I'm a loyal customer, give me a free gift. You open it up, there could be something inside. It might be a t-shirt, it might be a hoodie, it might be some shoes, whatever. Then there'll be a QR code in there that says, thanks for your loyalty, please scan here. Obviously you're going to scan it. Why wouldn't you? Well, if you scan this QR code, that's where this happens. They will then be able to get into your phone from scanning that link. You literally would not be able to tell that this has happened to you until you see the money going out of your account or something like that. So yeah, if you don't order a parcel, just be wary if there's a QR code in there that it's telling you to scan. Do your research, please, because it could save you a lot of money. Now, of course, please share this video around with anybody you know, friends and family, because I know some of the older generation would scan it in an instant. So that's my part, and I will keep you updated.
China has just had to urgently
Nothing is left for free.
400,000 people after they were hit by one of the most powerful super typhoons in over a decade. And for perspective, a super typhoon is equivalent to that of a Category 5 hurricane. All schools in the area that had made landfall were shut, trains, boats, and flights were suspended, and all tourist attractions have been closed down. The winds near its center reached a staggering 145 miles per hour. And this typhoon has doubled in strength after it killed more than 16 people in the Philippines last week. It's now predicted to move along and hit Vietnam this weekend.
Uncommon human traits. Being able to move one eyebrow, 25% of people. Growing a full beard, 1 in 5 men. Having dimples, 1 in 5 people. Going bald, 1 in 8 men. Having an outy belly button, 1 in 10 people. Being left-handed, 1 in 10 people. Having curly hair, 1 in 10 people. Having blue eyes, 1 in 10 people. Having green eyes, 1 in 50 people.
That's very rare. Green eyes, 1 in 50, man. That just shows you the rarity. I see blue eyes often, but never green eyes, man. It's very rare if I see somebody with green eyes.
Did you know these facts? The Boeing factory is so large they had to install a one-of-a-kind air circulation system to stop clouds from forming inside of the building. This is the world's smallest drawbridge in Bermuda. The US Navy is known to have used Xbox controllers to control the periscopes on submarines. James Cameron was homeless when he wrote The Terminator. He sold the rights for $1 on the condition that he was the one to direct the movie. A race was held in 1888 between a pigeon and a bee for 3 miles, where the bee won by 25 seconds. Camels have 3 eyelids that helps protect their eyes from the blowing sand. Cherries are dried with helicopters. It would take you 18 months to walk the Great Wall of China. The USA speaks more than 350 different languages. Scientists are out there making arguments that we may have more than 5 senses, one of them being magnetoreception, which is the ability to sense magnetic fields, and the other is chronoception, which is the ability to sense time passing.
You won't believe what this man saw during the 2024 solar eclipse. Reddit user Blakester731 said that him and a couple of friends went to watch the solar eclipse at a fishing spot out in the backwater in Tennessee. It was a secluded area that also hosts a small Trail of Tears memorial. They passed the stone monument on their way to go fishing, which acknowledged the removal of the Cherokee from their native land and the tragedies that occurred there. He said that him and his friends gave it their private respects and moved along to the fishing spot. Time passed like any other day out fishing, and they were having a good time. Towards the afternoon, the dark shape of the moon started to move closer to the sun. The woods all of a sudden became very quiet. The sounds of birds, flies, and cicadas all seemingly disappeared. Then the eclipse started, and the world got darker around them. Colors and weird shadows split across the ground. Reddit user Blakester731 said that he was switching from his light-resistant glasses to the landscape around him. He looked towards the trees, and then finally, the moon was full and only the sun's halo showed behind it. He took the glasses off to see it more clearly, and then he says, they were there. He said that they were like reflections and shadows standing around them. There were tall, dark human shapes surrounding them. There were hundreds of them in the woods, behind the trees, and on the shoreline. He screamed and fell out of his chair. His friends then took their glasses off and shot out of their chairs too. They all grouped together and started moving towards their truck. But just as the moon moved off the sun, the shadow figures vanished. The whole thing had lasted less than 3 minutes, but they got out of there as fast as they could.
facts.
Hey man, people, they saying they saw different stuff during the solar eclipse, man. That didn't happen like a while ago, like a couple of months ago if I'm not mistaken. So Seekers, where were you guys at, man, when that solar eclipse happened? I was outside just trying to look up at it with the glasses, making sure nothing weird was going on, but everybody has a different story.
You didn't know, part 219. This is the last video taken of Steven Weber, who proposed to his girlfriend underwater. While on a trip in Tanzania, the couple were staying in a submerged room. Steven swam underwater to the outside of the room with a note and a ring. The front of the note read, "I can't hold my breath long enough to tell you everything I love about you, but everything I love about you, I love more every day." When he turned the note over, it read, "Will you please be my wife? Marry me?" He then produced a ring from his pocket before swimming out of frame. Tragically, he never made it to the surface and drowned. The Mark Jackson basketball card from 1990 has two unique guests featured in the background. The Menendez brothers can be seen sitting courtside after murdering their parents and prior to their arrest. When the SS Daniel J. Morrell began to sink on Lake Huron in 1966, the crew believed they were just moments from being rescued when they spotted lights that they believed was from another boat. To their horror, they discovered that the lights were actually from the severed stern of their own ship. It was barreling towards them under the power of the ship's engine.
Alright, so these are the insects that's usually on your strawberries.
Come again?
So far we got some mites. And it's pretty normal if you want fresh organic vegetables and fruits, they're gonna have bugs on them. Let's see how much are when you rinse them or wash them off. Ooh, looks like just rinsing them for a few seconds got rid of a lot of the insects. Now I will say, even though you wash them off on the outside, there's still the inside, which I'm sure contains plenty of insects because they burrow themselves in. So even when you wash your fruit and veggies, just know there might be insects inside the fruits and veggies as well, which is a good source of protein, I guess, right?
You die in this VR game, you die in real life. Yes, this video is not fake. This is genuinely something that was just invented, and you won't believe who by. And it's not as crazy a person as you might think, which kinda makes it even more terrifying. It is almost unbelievable the world's first VR headset that literally kills you if you die in the game has just been created. And just quickly, TikTok are now showing you your lookalike on the app. Just tap share copy more, and if you've got one, it will come up. The man who invented it, Palmer Luckey, is a leader in VR, a government contractor, and the creator of Meta's Oculus headset. So this is the real deal. The headset is hooked up to 3 explosive charge modules that sit above the screen. The charges are aimed directly at the user's forebrain, and should they go off, would obliterate the head of the user. He said he created it because only the threat of serious consequences can make the game feel real to you and every other person in the game. He even says that he wants to work on an anti-tampering model that cannot be removed or destroyed. So if you decide to put it on, there is no going back. Thankfully, this headset is not commercially available yet. Would you play this with any of your friends?
Did you know these?
Hell no, man. They trying to freaking, saying this VR stuff, man, they trying to make it too weird, bro. Virtual reality is only supposed to be real up until a point. But now, like you said, he wants to make one where it can try to, like, lock you in, you can't even take it off your head. Don't buy that VR set, Seekers.
Facts. Jesse Pinkman and Walter Jr. were never in an episode of Breaking Bad. Amelia Earhart had a co-pilot when she went missing. Bill Withers wrote the song Ain't No Sunshine while he worked for a factory that built airplane toilet seats. A bear was the first living being to survive a supersonic ejection. Dr. Phil lost his psychology license in 2006, and all guests on his show have to sign a contract that says that they are getting advice from an individual and not a psychologist. Gaming tournaments are now adding clauses to allow judges to penalize players for dirty clothing or terrible odor as much as giving them a full loss. Berlin has still not recovered from its pre-World War II population count. A school principal made a student that was in trouble sit in the basement and read the U.S. Constitution. That student was Thurgood Marshall. He memorized the entire Constitution and became the first ever black Supreme Court justice.
Here's some Disney Channel stars that went to jail, but each time the crime gets worse. Starting off, Mitchell Musso, who played Oliver Hogan in Hannah Montana, was pulled over in 2011 for driving under the influence. He was only 20 at the time and was arrested and released on bail. Because of this, his character was written out of Para Kings, and his show Prankstar stars was canceled. Next up, Adam Hicks, who played Luther on Zeke and Luther and had a starring role in Lemonade Mouth, was arrested a couple times, but most recently for an armed robbery with his girlfriend. His sentencing was delayed multiple times due to mental health evaluations and was eventually given a 5-year sentence. But he's now currently on parole and making music on TikTok. Moving on, Lindsay Lohan was Disney's golden child in the early 2000s, starring in iconic movies such as The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Mean Girls, before getting into trouble with the law. She's been arrested for driving under the influence, drug possession, violating her probation, a theft charge, and has even had a bench warrant out for her arrest. And finally, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, was arrested and charged for vehicle manslaughter after killing a 21-year-old girl while drunk driving. When they tested his blood alcohol, it was 3 times the legal limit. He was originally given a 5-year sentence, 2 years of probation, and 350 hours of community service, but ended up only serving 1 year due to his work with prison-based theater groups that performed in jails, churches, and schools to highlight the consequences of drug abuse.
That's our childhood, bro. Exposed, man.
Like pandas, right? They'll usually have twins, but since they don't have the facilities to take care of more than one, let's just say Zach might be fine, but Cody getting canceled. Mary Kay might be okay, but Ashley ain't. And that's assuming Big Mama don't roll in her sleep and flatline her first choice. So what Zoos will do is, they'll have twins running shifts with their mom. That way both couples have a chance at life. Whole time the desaturated deadbeat is convinced she only had one. Here are some other horrible mothers of nature. The harp seal, because she's actually a good mother. For like 2 weeks, then she leaves the kid on ice even though it won't be able to swim or really do anything for itself for the next 6 weeks. Posting your child to chase more seal peel is negligent. Doing it in God's icebox is outrageous. And pulling that in polar bear country is just diabolical. The scorpion, because she literally carries her entire family on her back to protect them from predators. Pretty fucking ironic, because if there is enough food around, she'll take some of the brood off her back and have herself a kid's meal. This guy, and I think you know why, because marsupials like quokkas, wallabies, and kangaroos will evict their child out the pouch as a last resort against predators. Logically, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Morally, it puts you in the class of Casey Anthony. This welfare fraud with wings. Not only do they con other birds into raising children they have no parts in, it is scientifically documented that cuckoos will use mob violence to force them to do it. So to be fair, the first thing the cuckoo chick does is yeet every foster sibling out the nest. And when you're born that much of a cockwife, there isn't much hope for your future, the more you know.
During World War II,
well, you know, he said it.
They wanted to take back Ramree Island from the Japanese. So on January 21st, 1945, British and Indian infantry stormed the beaches of Ramree to try to take it back. As soon as they land, they have all this naval artillery support just bombing the crap out of this airbase, but the Japanese do not want to surrender, and instead they give up the airbase that they were on, so the British take that back, and the remaining 1,000 Japanese soldiers started retreating to the opposite end of the island. But the only issue with this particular retreat was they would have to go through 10 miles of mangrove swamp. So that night, as the British are just kind of hanging out in their boats staring at the swamp, they start hearing screams coming from inside of this swamp. It's Japanese soldiers. Then you hear gunfire, and then silence. And the British are watching this like, do we have troops in there? What's going on in there? What was going on in there is defined by the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest massacre of humans caused by animals. And not just any animal, saltwater crocodiles. Saltwater crocodiles are notorious night hunters. So what probably happened is the Japanese got inside of this mangrove. The crocodiles were immediately aware of their presence, but they waited until nighttime before they started having a feeding frenzy. And at the end of their retreat, when the Japanese did get to the other side of this swamp, only 500 of the 1,000 made it out the other side. And so to this day, people stay far away from Ramree Island because there are so many of these man-eating saltwater crocodiles that have no issue ripping you to shreds.
Whew. Dark time of history. Never knew that, man. Watching these clips always expands my knowledge base.
Is it actually dangerous to tickle a stingray? Tickling a stingray, as depicted in a viral video where a man appears to make a stingray laugh, might seem like a harmless and amusing interaction. However, experts caution against such actions for several reasons. And just quickly, check if you've got any free TikTok tokens to claim. Tap share, copy, then more, and you'll see if you have any. Primarily concerning the safety and well-being of the animal. Stingrays, like many aquatic creatures, are not accustomed to being handled by humans, especially in ways that are unnatural to them, such as tickling. These animals are adapted to life in water, where they have evolved specific behaviors and responses to their environment. Interactions like tickling can be stressful and potentially harmful to stingrays. They may not have the same sensory responses as mammals, and what appears as laughter or enjoyment is likely a misinterpretation of their natural reaction to an unusual stimulus. Furthermore, stingrays have defense mechanisms, including the well-known sting in their tail, which they use when they feel threatened or stressed. Attempting to tickle or otherwise interact closely with a stingray can provoke this defensive response, posing a risk of injury to the person involved. From an ethical standpoint, respecting wildlife and maintaining a safe distance is crucial for the conservation and well-being of these animals.
Top 3 creepy last words
tickle a stingray.
said right before
Simple.
dying. A nurse who wants to remain anonymous said that she had a sweet patient named Ella who started to lose herself to dementia. She started talking to herself. Most of the time it was playful. She would laugh to herself. One day, the nurse walked into her room and she was in a complete panic. She had her blanket pulled up to her chin and she was completely pale. The nurse went to her bedside to ask her what was wrong, and she said, "There is a woman in black looking in my window, and I am just petrified of her smile." The nurse said that it shook her hard. Reddit user Simple Simon 6262 said that when he was a student, he got called in on a stroke patient. She had coded and they were doing CPR. They worked for 45 minutes. But she died. They cleaned her up and called on her family to say goodbye. By the time her family left, she had been both brain dead and without a pulse for over 45 minutes. He said that blood had filled her brain and she was completely gray and had started to smell. Suddenly, she sat up and called for her family. The nurses rushed to get equipment and monitors back on her. She stabilized, said goodbye to her family, and promptly died a second time. Reddit user AJH1717 said that he works in a cardiovascular surgical ICU. He said that they had a stretch of nights where each corner room of their unit reported seeing a black cat walking around. Not a friendly cat either, apparently. The thing was hissing at them. The accounts were so similar to each other that they probably spent half an hour looking for the cat. Then they had security look as well. No cat was ever seen or found. 2 of those 4 patients coded the next day.
Have scientists just proven that we actually live in a simulation? I cannot believe what I'm about to tell you. Trust me, you're going to want to favorite this video because this could actually change the world.
Break it down for us.
Essentially, the new laws of physics support the concept that we are living in a computer simulation. Now please, stay with me. This is all being researched by a man named Melvin Vopson. A name which after this video you're probably going to want to bring up in your next therapy appointment. Claiming that we are all characters in an advanced virtual world. He claims that the physical behavior of information in our universe resembles the process of a computer deleting and compressing code. Now do you want to know what that means? So the fucking I. However, it's his next quote specifically that makes me go, "Wah!" Clue that perhaps the machines hope we don't notice. You're right, Melvin, mate. These are some bold claims that we are absolutely living in a computer simulation. Bold enough claims to give Matthew nightmares. There is so much more on this, including the fact that he believes symmetry in our world is the clue to everything, saying that all biological life presents some form of symmetry. As well, solids and crystals also have symmetry, because apparently symmetry is the best way of optimizing and rendering a digitally constructed world. That's why we have symmetries everywhere rather than asymmetries. I'm way too deep down this rabbit hole. What do you think, computer simulation or real life?
See, because what do you guys think, man? We in a simulation? You guys know what my background is, so. Is it true, man? We in the Matrix, bro? We just don't know it yet? We gotta wake up, bro. Rage Against the Machine, man. I'm definitely gonna have to check up that, man. Sounds like a deep rabbit hole, bro. Sounds worth it, though.
This whole Smart Schoolboy 9 situation just got far crazier. I cannot believe I'm actually saying this. So I'm sure you're all very aware of this whole Smart Schoolboy 9 situation. It's going crazy on social media right now. Since this whole thing came out, it's finally been revealed what his face actually looks like without the makeup and weird clothes on. And yeah, it is just like, this guy's a full-on 59-year-old man. What is bro doing? There he is. Still fully dressed up. Now, since this whole thing broke, there has been many people coming forward saying about their interactions with him. Apparently even has links to the guy who made salad fingers, so that explains it. We know his name appeared in this news article about school uniforms and how they're good, but many people claiming they've seen him out and about dressed like this, chasing them. Apparently he's had multiple run-ins with the authorities who have raided his house before and found very bad things. But these are all just allegations, so no one knows for sure. But what we do know is that some of the videos are real, and I wish I could put them here, but I can't because they'll just get taken down. Videos of this guy doing some truly disturbing things and full on chasing people. As I say, I can't post it here, but link in my bio to my full YouTube video if you want to go and watch that. But yeah, there is so many new things coming out about this guy. Apparently he's being looked into by the authorities right now, who knows. But yeah, any more disturbing stuff I literally can't post here will be on my YouTube. But hit that follow button here, and I'll keep you updated with any new things that come out here.
Gruesome fact.
I seen that, man. That's that Smart Bro School 9 videos be trending everywhere on TikTok, YouTube. That's just everywhere, man. That just sounds like a freaking creepy case. I could check out a video, I guess, on YouTube if you guys tickets if you want me to do that.
You didn't know, Part 225. In 1559, King Henry II of France was participating in a jousting tournament. During a match, he was severely wounded in the eye and brain by a splintered lance. He died of his injuries 10 days later, with his death leading to the decline of jousting as a sport in France. Actress and Playboy centerfold Yvette Vickers was last seen in 2010 after withdrawing from her family and friends. When neighbor Susan Savage noticed cobwebs on the mailbox, she went inside to investigate. Upstairs, she discovered her mummified body. Lieutenant Colonel William Henry Rankin is one of only 2 known persons to survive falling from the top of a cumulonimbus thunderstorm cloud. He was forced to eject from his jet when his engine failed. It took him 40 minutes to finally reach the ground. During his descent, he suffered from frostbite, and severe decompression caused his mouth, eyes, ears, and nose to bleed.
40 minutes just free falling on top of the cloud.
What you just saw is the United States Coast Guard raiding a high-speed submarine in the Eastern Pacific Ocean moving more than 17,000 pounds of cocaine. On June 18th, 2019, a Coast Guard surveillance aircraft tracked and intercepted the drug-filled narco sub hundreds of miles off the Colombian-Ecuadorian coastline. The video shows a member of the Coast Guard riding on top of the speeding submarine. He then starts pounding on the hatch and demanding it to come to a stop. 3 other Coast Guard members then jump ship and board the 40-foot-long submarine. The video then continues, and you see the presumed trafficker emerging from the submarine hatch with his hands up, surrender. And in total, 5 alleged smugglers were seized on board the vessel and were handed over for prosecution by the United States Drug Enforcement Administration.
Are these your friends, the police?
Now, just watch the full encounter unfold. It's honestly something straight out of a video game.
What's he yelling?
That's gonna be hard to get on.
I'm trying to say what the hell is he saying? This is something like out of a video game, out of a movie. I just jumped on it. Whew. Have the freaking banners being on top of that too.
Is to make sure that these criminals survive long enough to have that justice served.
Terrified they didn't really yesterday they released the popcorn bucket, man, for these movie theaters and they popcorn buckets. Crazy. Mito?
Ocean expert who has worked these rip current drowning cases for 30 plus years. He says the body always recovers. Well, today marks 2 weeks and still no sightings of Kanaki. He also says when it comes to these tiger sharks in the area, they're in the deep waters, not near the shoreline. And he said specifically for these sharks to be involved, they smell blood. They look for blood. She would have already have had to been dead or injured when she hit the water. He also says that when it comes to the reefs and corals, it's very unlikely that her body would have made it to the reefs. They're 85 feet out. He said that would be a very remote chance. But he also said that the Dominican Navy has already searched the reef and corals and found no sightings of Kanaki. He also says that when it comes to the shoreline, the way the topography works, the way the waves flow, they come directly in, that her body would have washed up the way that it entered. He says these are very warm waters, so her body would have risen to the surface very fast. Her body would have started to decay and then release these gases, making her float. What are your thoughts about all this? What do you think about this drowning theory? Do you think it's likely she drowned? Or maybe there was foul play. Maybe she was trafficked. Write in the comments below.
Because X died 4 years ago on this very day, let's take a second to remember some of his last words. On June 18th, 2018, X went to an ATM to withdraw some cash. As X started driving away, a black SUV started to follow him all the way to a nearby motorsports shop. So X went inside the shop, and after a few hours, he noticed that the black SUV was still in the parking lot. Two men hopped out of the SUV and demanded that X give them his car. As X tried to fight back, he was shot in the neck 3 times. Witnesses claim his last words were something like, "What the F is going on?" but his last verified words were these.
I've gone through my fair share of destruction and pain in the process to get where I've gotten, and anything is possible. If I'm gonna die or ever be a sacrifice, I want to make sure that my life made at least 5 million kids happy. Or they found some sort of answers or resolve in my life. Your mind is limitless. You are worth more than you could believe. All you have to do is dream, and all you have to do is want to fulfill that dream and have the strength to fulfill that dream.
RPX, man, one of the biggest artists in the world. It's crazy, man. And his music did hit over. Like you said, he wanted to hit 5 million kids to get answers, I guess, from what he was doing. And his music definitely impacted a lot of people, man, including me, so. RPX, man, one of the greatest artists.
Terrifying things found in abandoned places. A YouTuber by the name of Urbex Hill was exploring an abandoned school when he soon realizes that he wasn't alone. Just watch this clip and be warned.
What the hell?
There was a man living inside of the abandoned school. What would you do if you stumbled upon a man living inside of an abandoned school? Follow for more videos.
I'm doing exactly what he did.
Paranormal. Whether you answer yes or no, it is true that some things just cannot be explained. This photo to me is one of those unexplainable things. Now this was taken at a wedding in Paisley, Scotland all the way back in 1972, and from the looks of it, all seems relatively normal. It was 37 years before anyone spotted the extra guest in the photo. When zoomed in, you can see a man's eye peeking from behind, as well as a full leg and a foot which appears to be in an open-toed sandal. Now, none of the 4 present in the photo can explain this and claim that no one else was there. Even the wedding photographer vouched that there was nobody else in the photo. Now, allegedly, this photo was examined by a police photographer who claims it to be genuine, meaning it was not tampered with. Now, the man on the far left even claims that he visited a medium in Glasgow, Scotland, who claimed he would receive such a photo. So what do you think? Was maybe a child hiding behind them? Did somebody edit the photo? Or maybe it's just an object that is all playing a trick on our eyes?
Facts that could save your life. To survive a falling elevator, your best bet is to cover your face and lie flat on your back. Hitting the ground in this position spreads the force of the impact evenly across your body, and your face is protected against debris. If you see a tornado that's not moving, run, because it is coming right towards you. Tornadoes are so big that you can't tell right away when they come straight at you. If you are in a foreign land and need to call emergency services, don't call 911. 112 is the emergency telephone number for most countries. It will connect from a cell phone to just about anywhere you are on the planet. Most drunk driving collisions occur on Saturdays and Sundays during the late hours of the night. If you can avoid the roads during these times, do it.
Okay. I heard about the 112 when you're in different foreign countries. I think I got a comment like a couple of weeks ago. I was saying it was something like 919 in the United Kingdom or something like that. So it's like it varies, I guess, with different countries. It's not 112 everywhere. You learning. Just a little fun fact I just wanted to tell you guys, man. Need that when I go traveling one day. saw
There are
that.
very few things that are creepier than abandoned amusement parks, but this one, it definitely takes the cake. It's called Pripyat, and it's in the Ukraine, and it was only working for about a month before it had to completely shut down because of Chernobyl. Which, if you don't know what Chernobyl is, look that up on its own. I may make a video of it eventually, but it is terrifying. And I am not recommending anybody go to this abandoned place. Please don't. Safety warning. But even if there was no radiation in the air, I would not go anywhere near this thing. It is so absolutely terrifyingly creepy. Like, imagine it at night. Imagine it in the pitch dark, which that's something that scares the heck out of me, and I'll just be sitting there and thinking about, at like 2 in the morning, thinking about the Six Flags that's very, very close to me, and imagining it in the pitch dark, and the roller coasters in the pitch dark, and I freak myself out. These abandoned rides and that gosh darn Ferris wheel that I hate, abandoned amusement park rides with rust on them, freak me out, and I don't know why. I always imagine them underwater, and I just, why do I like to scare myself? Oh, and you see these buildings up here? Yes, one of them is an abandoned hospital, in case you were wondering, and it's also presumed haunted. Of course. So if it was legal, and if it was safe, would you go anywhere near this abandoned place? I absolutely would not. Have you all heard of the gigantic animatronic head in Japan in a bathroom that kisses your knees while you use the toilet?
No.
Let's talk about it. In the Shinjuku area, there is a animatronic sumo wrestler head that sings to you, and the animatronic head gets closer and closer and closer to you while you're using the toilet until it's like kissing your knees. Why? Who designed? Why? I'm going to show you a video of it singing and moving closer, but this is a lady's knees, and seriously, why? Not to mention the absolute megalophobia of that gigantic animatronic in front of me. I would not be able to look at it. I would be so terrified, but the fact that it gets closer to you, even if it was just regular, like if it was just in a regular room, but why? I would literally be using this toilet like crazy if I saw this, you know what I mean? Also, bro looks extremely sinister.
You do.
Watch this video and let me know what you think, and, what's going on?
So here we are, so we're constantly one of the music starts.
Here are some acts.
Somebody was on something, man, when they was designing that, bro. Who came up with the idea, like, yeah, we're gonna have a big face stare at you, man, when you taking a dump. And you know what? We're gonna make it move toward you, bro. Make it move towards your legs. That's what somebody wants in the bathroom, man. We cracked the design right there. They were not thinking, bro.
Accidents that changed the world forever. A scientist was testing gases for a refrigerant, but instead he created the chemicals that would one day fuel nerve agents, which are some of the deadliest chemical weapons in the world. A hospital accidentally exposed higher radiation levels than intended to a cancer patient, but in doing so, they discovered that precise, controlled radiation could shrink tumors and become a revolutionary cancer treatment. A medieval monk trying to make a simple drink left a pot of grapes fermenting too long and accidentally created champagne. A clockmaker in the 1700s miscalculated a gear system, but instead of fixing it, he realized the mistake created a perfect timekeeping mechanism, leading to modern clocks. An engineer was supposed to build a stronger adhesive for bridges, but instead he accidentally invented the formula for the first bubblegum. A pilot in World War II got lost in fog, crashed his plane, and accidentally inspired the invention of air traffic control. A frustrated researcher trying to find a cure for stomach ulcers accidentally discovered the compound that would later become Viagra. A scientist studying rubber noticed that a cracked vial had absorbed moisture in a weird way, accidentally leading to the invention of modern diapers. A medieval apothecary trying to make a healing tonic accidentally set off a small explosion and unknowingly created the first version of gunpowder. A shipbuilder in the 1800s miscalculated the weight balance of a new design, and that mistake directly likely led to the invention of the modern keel.
Here's why you might want to check under your bed for monsters tonight. In 1991, a music executive named Christopher Case was found fully clothed laying in his bathtub in the fetal position. The cops checked, and he had no pulse. The police called Christopher's best friend Sammy to see if she knew anything about the death, and she started to recount a grimacing call she had had with him just the night before he died. The night before, he had woken up to someone speaking under his bed. So he bent down and looked under his bed to see a dark figure. He was paralyzed in fear and couldn't move as this dark figure became fully standing up. The figure reached down and strangled Christopher until he was knocked out. The next morning, when Christopher woke up, he felt his neck and it was all battered, and his fingers were covered in blood. As he's explaining this crazy story to Sammy on the phone, he explains how he's so terrified to go to sleep that night. And then he says, "Hold on, I hear whispering right outside my bedroom door." And that's when the phone went dead.
Oh man, I gotta find part 2. Check under the beds tonight, man.
Which of these facts is the hardest to believe? Our fingers get wrinkly in water because wrinkly fingers give a stronger grip on slippery objects underwater. Dolphins can drown if they stay underwater for too long or if water enters their lungs. The largest muscle in your body is the one you are currently sitting on. In 2013, a man bought a house next door to his wife just so he could install a giant middle finger statue facing her house. The statue even lit up at night. Now, would you rather go back to your ex or this the second person that comes up when you click share and then WhatsApp? Babies can only see white or black in the first month of their birth. Your keyboard knows the last thing you eat. Type I eat and let your keyboard finish the sentence. About 1/6 of the entire world's living languages are only spoken in UK. In the UK, you can join the army at 16 but legally have to be up to 18 years old to play Call of Duty. Fourth one.
I think the one where I guess husband bought the house next to his ex-wife or something, put that statue up. People are petty like that, man. I can believe that one, bro. I believe that one, man. You know what this is, man.
Top 3 police officers who actually encountered demons. A police officer named Jake said that he was driving around one night and observed a vehicle parked alone in the middle of a church parking lot. This was at night, so he figured that maybe it was some college kids or something. So he pulled up to the car from the side, only to see that there was no one inside. He said that he then positioned his car behind it so he could run the license plate. He thought that maybe someone had stole it and dumped it in the parking lot. So he started to run the plate and he looked at the car through the back window. And then he said that he swears that he saw a person in the front seat looking at him through the rear view mirror. He said that this is something that you notice as a cop, because when you do traffic stops, you can tell how intently someone is watching you inside your car and possibly if they are going to try something. So he says that he got an oh crap moment of, I didn't see there was anyone in the car. He drove directly up next to it to reassure himself of what he saw, and there was no one inside the car. He said that chills immediately ran down his spine and that he got the heck out of there. The car was later gone and he doesn't know what happened. He said that he doesn't know exactly what he saw, but it freaked him out. Him and his partners used to sit in that church parking lot on quiet nights because it was tucked away and you could just relax, but he has not sat there since.
This is the scariest story about the old television. A few years ago in a small town in Spain, there was a married couple who had a 6-year-old boy. There was an old television in their son's bedroom, and every night when he went to bed, he insisted on covering the TV with a blanket. His parents noticed this, and they then asked him, "Son, why do you always cover the TV at night?" The boy gave them a weird look and then replied scared. He said because that's how they get in. The parents dismissed this and thought nothing of it. One night the parents went out. When the parents returned home that night, it was well past midnight. To their surprise, they saw the babysitter crying on the staircase out loud. When they asked the babysitter what happened, she looked up at them with fear in her eyes and said, "They took him." The parents ran upstairs, and when they got to their boy's bedroom, they were horrified. Their son was nowhere to be found, and there was a trail of blood leading to the television.
So he was telling the truth.
The woman behind me was boiled alive at a caramel factory that she worked at. In 2017, Natalia Nemitz was working at a caramel factory in Russia. She was cleaning up the tank when all of this molten caramel started rushing in. Not only did it drown her, it boiled her alive, and nobody could do anything to watch her burn. At the end of it, only her legs were sticking up. I assume that all of her body was dissolved or down to the bone at that point. This factory has a history of tragic accidents. She was the third person that year to lose her life. And in typical corporate fashion, they threatened to fire anyone that came forward with information about Natalia's death to the public. I'm just so glad the Labor Commission decided to investigate her death. The company tried to hide it and said she fell into the tank. One theory suggests that the high temperature in the room made her faint and fall into the tank. Another story said she stumbled down and fell into the tank, but neither of those are true. The eyewitness accounts that did get out said she was inside of the tank cleaning it, nothing was in there, and then everything just came gushing in. Unfortunately, she left behind a 10-year-old son, but luckily the son can stay with her sister. Let me know what you guys think about the story in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Man, these factory jobs, they're truly dangerous, man. Watching these clips together with you guys, that's the conclusion I came with. These factory jobs, man, stay away from them if you can. And these companies will do anything to try to save a buck. That's crazy.
Today I googled what is the longest time someone has spent in a coma and then woken up. So in at number 5 is Terry Wallace. Now Terry went into a coma when he was only 20 years old when he suffered a major car accident where his pickup truck skidded off of a bridge. 19 years later when he awoke from his minimally conscious state, he believed that he was still 20 years old and that it was still 1984. Number 4 on the list is Jan Grzebski. Now this one is pretty savage because Jan was a railroad worker who fell into a coma after being hit by one of the rail cars. Now what's savage about this story is that he spent 19 years in the coma and miraculously woke up, but only 2 years later he died from a heart attack. In third place is Sarah Scantlin. Now Sarah was put into a comatose state when she was just 18 years old when she was hit by a drunk driver as she walked through a parking lot, and she remained in a coma for 20 years. Sarah's dad recalls the day that she woke up saying, "Suddenly, the phone rings one day, and then she said hello, and I just went numb." Number 2 on the list is Rom Hubin. Now, Rom's experience is probably the most terrifying thing that could happen to a person because, unlike all the others on the list, for 23 years, the doctors didn't realize that his brain was actually active, meaning that for 23 years, he saw his doctors and nurses as they visited him during their daily rounds. He listened to the conversations of his carers. He heard his mother deliver the news to him that his father had died, but he could do nothing. He was unable to communicate with his doctors or his family. He could not move his head. He couldn't cry. He could only listen. Once they discovered that his brain was actually active, a scientist developed a special technology that now enables him to communicate with the world. So in at number 1, and the longest time someone has spent in a coma and then woken up, goes to Annie Shapiro. Now Annie went into a coma at age 50 for nearly 30 years, and then suddenly woke again at age 79. When she woke, she was devastated by her appearance and the way that the world had changed. She said, "When I went to sleep, I was a darn good-looking woman, but now in the mirror, all I see is an old lady with bags around her eyes, wrinkles, and gray hair." She couldn't believe that her husband, Martin, was an 81-year-old man and that her teenage son and 25-year-old daughter were now both middle-aged. She was awestruck to learn about cordless telephones and spaceship flights.
Imagine waking up like that, man. The whole world changed. It's kind of like, that's breaking your whole reality, man. In one time, you wake up, it's a completely different one, man. Mind blowing.
This judge gave Walmart shoppers a very unusual sentence. Let me explain. This here is Jeffrey, and he became a judge in Michigan in January. And he was shocked to see the huge number of retail thefts in Michigan. So much so that he was working through about 48 cases per day. But since most of these cases were just misdemeanors, Jeffrey didn't think that these people deserved to be behind bars. Instead, he ordered them to community service, with the service being to wash the cars in the Walmart parking lot, the same place that most of these people stole from.
They are going to give a free car wash to the people that think it's a good idea to go there and steal.
Now, Jeffrey thinks this is justified because he doesn't think they're bad people, but there should be consequences for their actions. And what better way to hold them accountable than to wash strangers' cars with the chance of running into somebody that they know? And the Walmart backs up this idea. Not only that, but Jeffrey said he'll even show up to help them out. So I guess they'll all have a fun bonding day together.
This
That's
girl's
crazy.
life was taken by her lover after telling his wife about their affair. This is 20-year-old Kanaya Brenson, and she was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kanaya was described as a joy to be around, and she could make you smile right away. She wanted to become a vet or a orthodontist, but later on she discovered that she was actually good at making people feel pretty, and she enrolled in beauty school. This is 53-year-old Sultan Sharif, and him and Kanaya had formed a romantic relationship. The thing is, he was already married. Kanaya ended up reaching out to Sultan's wife, and she gave her all the information about their affair and all the necessary details that she needed to know. Obviously, Sultan was not happy about this, so he actually reached out to Kanaya's mother, basically told her, "I'm done messing with your daughter, but she keeps reaching out to my wife." I'm also not sure if Kanaya's mother knew about the relationship or if this is how she found out. On September 24th of 2022, a friend of Sultan had called 911 after seeing Sultan on top of Kanaya in his car, and Kanaya was just screaming, pleading for help, and she was just saying, "He cut my throat." Police had arrived to the area where this was happening, and of course, once they got there, Sultan was gone and his car was gone as well. Eventually, police were called to an alley where they found Kanaya's body, and she had been tied, shot, and set on fire. Police began interviewing people, including Sultan's wife, and she stated that, "Oh no, it couldn't have been him because she was with him that day." But later, police discovered that she was actually lying, and they had a video surveillance to back that up.
4K.
Sultan's brother-in-law, Johnny Allen Hopgood, was charged as an accomplice. Johnny was charged with mutilating a corpse, and his bond was set at $50,000. Sultan was charged with first-degree murder and mutilating a body, and his bond is set at $500,000.
So he basically got mad that she exposed them, and he took it out on her because he couldn't deal with the consequences of his actions. Most dangerous people in the world, man. Who can't take accountability for themselves. Chilling story.
These are the Skelton brothers, and they have been missing since November 26th, 2010. And this month, a judge has officially declared them no longer alive. Andrew Alexander and Tanner Skelton, who were 9, 7, and 5, spent Thanksgiving 2010 with their father, John, in Morenci, Michigan. Their mother, Tanya Zubers, was supposed to pick them up from her ex-husband the next day. However, Tanya stopped hearing from John, so she went to his house and found his van in the driveway. Tanya explained that John kept giving her different excuses until he finally said he was at the hospital and the boys were with a friend he had recently met on the internet. He was reportedly at the hospital because he had broken his ankle, telling hospital workers that he did so while trying to take his own life. Not knowing where her sons were, Tanya called the police and asked them to go to John Skelton's home. Officers went and searched the home and reportedly found broken dishes, cut-up mattresses, and the house in disarray, but no sign of the 3 young boys. And while at the hospital, John changed his story several times about where the boys were. First, he said they were with friends, and then he said they were given to an unknown woman. He also at one point told police that he had given the boys to an underground group that would, quote, protect them from Tanya's abuse. But none of these stories were true, none of these people could be located, and the boys were missing. As police looked into what happened to the 3 Skelton boys, they found John's phone records. The records placed him in Michigan early on November 26th, and then placed him in Ohio with his phone pinging about 20 miles away from his home. His phone was then shut off and then pinged back in Michigan about 2 hours and 15 minutes after he left. Several areas in Michigan and Ohio have been searched for Andrew Alexander and Tanner, but they have never been found. John Skelton hasn't told anyone where they are, or even if they are still alive, aside from his stories of giving them to unknown people. According to Tanya, John previously claimed that the boys would hibernate until they graduate, but all 3 boys are now old enough that they would have graduated from high school. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Thanksgiving 2010 wasn't the first time John Skelton took the boys away from Tanya. He was accused of taking the boys out of school 2 months earlier, and it is alleged that he said he was taking them on a trip to Florida where his parents live. He was ultimately sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison for unlawful imprisonment after pleading no contest to the charges. He's currently in prison serving time for those charges at the Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility in Iona, Michigan. But he has not been charged with anything in connection to the disappearance of his sons. After searching for her sons for almost 15 years and fighting for justice for them, Tanya Zuvers made the difficult decision at the end of last year to request that the court officially declare them dead. In Michigan, a person is typically considered to be dead after they've been missing for 5 years, and the boys have been missing for 14. Tanya said of this, quote, "The decision came after much thought and discussion with my family and friends. It did not come lightly and was definitely a difficult decision to make. No parent wants to lose a child, but to have the court step in and declare them deceased is just unfathomable." But she did so, and earlier this month, the judge officially declared Andrew Alexander and Tanner Skelton dead. The judge reportedly said she could not rule that the boys had been murdered, though. Andrew Alexander and Tanner would be 23, 21, and 19 today. While they've officially been declared dead in the state of Michigan, they might still be out there somewhere, especially if their father did give them to some underground group. But something happened to these poor young boys, and they have never seen justice for what happened. Rest in peace, Andrew Alexander and Tanner.
Are allowed to take performance-enhancing drugs.
What?
It's called the Enhanced Games, and while it's got nothing to do with the Olympics organization, in fact, I don't think they like this idea at all, they promise to have all of the same events, including freaking combat sports, while the athletes can pump, juice, and dope however they see fit. The founder, Aaron D'Souza, says that they want to break every world record there is, and claim that these games will fundamentally change the trajectory of not just sports, but humanity as a whole. However, not everyone's on board with the idea. The head of the US Anti-Doping Agency called it a dangerous clown show. Two-time Olympic champion Kieran Perkins said it was borderline criminal and that someone would die if it was allowed to go ahead. Now, in response to the criticism, the games actually believe that sport could be safer without drug testing, saying that because athletes would be able to openly seek performance-enhancing drugs, they wouldn't have to buy them from shady illicit sources, and that medical advice and monitoring will be on hand at all times to pick up any danger signs in the athlete's systems. That's not even the part that I found the most interesting, because they also claim that most Olympians don't get paid a salary and are driven into debt.
I started driving for DoorDash.
I worked at Panera, a bank. The financial strain is huge.
Highlighting that the tennis players who lose the first round of Wimbledon take home double the amount of prize money that a gold medal winning US Olympian would receive. They say that any athlete who decides to compete in the Enhanced Games will receive a base salary and compete for prize winnings which will be larger than any other comparable event in history. So the question is this a dangerous idea that undermines all of the sports, or a genius idea that disrupts a system that needs to be changed?
This is what happened to this.
I think that's a dangerous idea, man. But once again, what did it all come down to, man? The root. It came down to the root of all evil, as I say, man. Money. People, they doing this for money, man. And I'm guaranteed there's gonna be probably a lot of people in those games, man, just because at the money they're gonna get at the end of that event. But it ain't worth it, man. That's crazy that they're actually gonna go through with that.
His fiancée that went missing 6 days before her wedding day. On September 8th, 2009, 24-year-old Annie Lay vanished while attending Yale, where she studied pharmacology. Not only was Annie completing graduate school, but she was also working at Yale's Animal Research Center. On this night, Annie's roommate became extremely worried when she failed to come home. Her roommate immediately reported Annie missing, and when police took a look at the surveillance footage, Annie was seen entering the Animal Research building at around 10 a.m. but was never seen leaving. When police entered the lab that Annie was in, they found her personal items, but she was nowhere to be found. At first, investigators believed that Annie got cold feet and ran away because her wedding was in a couple of days. But when investigators discovered that 24-year-old lab technician Raymond Clark was the only person who had access to Annie's lab room that day, they started to take a closer look at him. Investigators began looking into all the data from everyone's access cards, and they discovered that not only did Annie not leave the building that day, but she also entered room G13 and she never left that room either. But that's not all. They also noticed that Raymond used his access card 55 times that day to go in and out of the labs. Bloodstains, Raymond's DNA, and a piece of clothing that Annie wore on that day were also found in the lab room. And a few days after Annie's disappearance, the building began to smell like human decomposition. Cadaver dogs led investigators into a restroom in front of the lab room, and Annie's body was found behind a toilet inside a panel. And get this, Annie's body was found on the same day that she was supposed to get married. It's believed that Raymond took Annie's life because he wanted to be with her and because her wedding was coming up. Raymond was sentenced to 44 years in prison without the possibility of parole.
Jealousy.
You guys, this is crazy. This couple from China was executed on Wednesday because they threw his 2 small children out of 15-story apartment windows so they could start a new life together. Her name is Ye Chengshen and his name is Zhang Bo. And when they started seeing each other, he never told her that he was married and had kids. So when she found out, she wanted all 3 of them out of the picture. He eventually divorced his wife in February of 2020. They had a 2-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, and their custody agreement said that the mom would have the daughter and he would have the son until he turned 6, and then the son would go and live with the mom. But Ye apparently saw the kids as being a burden and an obstacle on them being able to have a future together. So over the course of the next 9 months, she urged and eventually persuaded him to get rid of the kids. In November of 2020, he called his ex-wife and asked if he could have the daughter for the day. And when she got there, the kids were playing near this window, and according to reports, he allegedly lifted the kids by their legs and just threw them out. He tried telling police that he had been asleep and had no idea that anything had even happened until he heard neighbors screaming, but authorities called BS on that pretty quick. They were both found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, and they were sentenced to death in December of 2021. But then there was this lengthy appeals process, and the court said that their first decision was absolutely appropriate, and they upheld their sentence. This is the kid's mom. As you can imagine, she was completely beside herself.
This
Things people do in relationships.
Somebody hearing their mom call out their name when their mom is not home has a darker context to it that makes it so much scarier, and I haven't seen anyone talking about this.
Okay. Is that a spirit or something?
Then what's your name then?
No answer.
The video was posted in 2023 by TikTok users stuck in a fake reality. And after this experience, whatever this thing was apparently came back. This time using a different but equally familiar voice.
Don't open that door.
Now, all of these posts are hashtagged with ARG, aka alternate reality game, so it's safe to say that Gabe is not claiming that any of this is actually real, but I've heard it circling with a theory that it happened in the Appalachian Mountains, that it's a mimic, while the true story is a little bit weirder, because whatever this was, it basically found Gabe in the back rooms. Stay spooky, friends.
This woman was...
So that was all based on a game, and not, I guess there wasn't no validity to it, because they had the back one was the shit shed. It was in the Appalachian Mountains. What do you guys think about that one? Edit, or was that real?
Was bit by this priest when she tried to receive the Holy Communion.
Trying to force like every time they put my mouth, and I was like, no, you're not gonna do that. And he's like, you want the bread, right? And I was like, not this way. So again, I'm not gonna front. I went and I tried to grab another cookie, and that's when he literally grabbed my hand, and he just bit me, and I tried to just back away, but it was very indented before, and then volunteer. Yeah, people that's in church right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and you want to press charges?
Yes.
Okay.
This happened in Florida during a Sunday Mass at St. Thomas Aquinas Church when this woman came up to receive the Holy Communion and was denied by the priest. She then put her hand inside where the priest held the host and tried to take it for herself. The priest then bit her arm so that she would let go, and he said that he had no other choice and that it's his duty to protect the Holy Communion. Now, this woman argues that the priest refused to give her the communion because she's a lesbian. But when authorities spoke to the priest, he said that he didn't even know that information and clarified that there's a rule that before anyone receives the communion, they need to confess first, which she apparently didn't do.
You said it, and the priest lady out there said the same thing, that as long as you do the correct steps for the religion, you can receive communion just like everybody else.
Of course.
Okay.
I know people who are homosexuals. They are not in a relationship. They want to be good Christians. They are following the rules, and I give them the communion. I'm not judging them. It's not my, you know.
But this woman said that she genuinely felt like she was treated this way because of her sexual orientation and will be pressing charges.
The things people will do, man. It's like there's like a lie in that story right there. Somebody was lying. But to bite her, that's going way too far. There's a dent in that story somewhere, Seekers.
These are videos you can never watch at night. We all know how there's some videos where you just can't watch them at night because they're that scary.
Yep.
Well, in this series, I'll be showing you all of those videos. So, be ready to get terrified.
Who are you? Let me in. Please let me. What? What's wrong with you? Did what? It took my
Well, I know I'm not sleeping after watching that video. This video has been going viral recently and nobody knows the origins of it. It shows what appears to be a ghostly woman standing outside of some man's window at night. And she says something took her daughter and did this to her. But nobody knows what that is. The man who uploaded the video hasn't updated anybody on if he's seen her again, or if he's okay, leaving people to worry about him. But I can't imagine looking out my window at night and seeing this.
This video is
I feel like that was an edit.
especially if you have children, so please be warned before watching. On the 19th of April, a group of school children were out playing in broad daylight. They were students of Black Forest Hills Elementary School in Colorado. At around 2:20 p.m. on the day in question, one of the 5th graders' lives would be changed forever. CCTV captured an absolutely horrifying experience. 33-year-old ex-offender Solomon Galligan chased and attempted to kidnap one of the small children.
What?
Luckily, he tripped over a blanket as he tried to pursue the little boy. He continued to lunge at the small child as the kid screamed stranger danger
Nobody
to
helped?
the teachers. Now, initially, Solomon did manage to flee the area and escape for a short while. The child, though, managed to give staff a description of the man. The teachers sent out an email alerting the parents to the danger, and one of the parents actually spotted him in a local Walgreens about a mile away. They reported this to police, and police turned up and arrested him. The little boy's mum said he was so traumatized he hadn't slept in 3 days. She says that it was thanks to the quick thinking of the other students who screamed and alerted the teachers that his life was saved. Several parents state that their children reported back to them that the teachers at the time of the incident were just stood on their phones. Solomon is being held in jail and is charged with child abuse and attempted kidnapping. Solomon actually already has an extensive criminal history and has been convicted of SA previously, but for some reason was roaming free.
How, man? It's the freaking the teachers was on the phone. It goes to show you, man, when you're on the job, you have to pay attention because you never know what can happen, man. You're around kids and stuff, so you always got to be aware. You got to be attentive. And you just on your phone. Thankfully, like I said, the kids did the adult's job for them. Luckily, nothing happened. You have to be aware, man. That's why I'm out. I try to stay off my phone because I want to be aware of my surroundings. That's a crazy case.
This is the India train video, one of the worst videos on the internet explained.
Break it down.
This video that I'm about to explain is extremely awful, and it's known as one of the worst and most gruesome accidents ever recorded. The video was recorded in India, and it's around 30-ish seconds long. The video starts, and you are immediately hit with a disturbing sight. You see the aftermath of a man who had just gotten hit by a train, and it's likely this man had did this to himself.
The man has a pretty large crowd around him filming the situation on their phones. The man has been completely cut in half, and you can see his intestines hanging out of his body.
Ooh.
And crazy enough, the man is still conscious and aware, but he is in a state of extreme shock. The crowd surrounding him, which also includes children, continue to look on and observe. And despite being cut in half, the man appears to stand up on his hands, and he manages to do this for about a second, until he hits the ground again. He falls on his back, but then rolls over so he is lying on his chest, and begins to try and crawl. And at this point, people in the crowd can be seen kneeling and getting closer as they are recording what's happening on their phones. And this is where the video then concludes. This is a very short video, but it's insanely graphic. This video is also kind of aggravating to me because the crowd of people around the man are more worried about recording what's happening rather than helping a man who was just cut in half by a train. Obviously, nobody could have helped him at this point, but wouldn't you think at least one person would come over and comfort him in his last moments of life? I don't know, I just think it's sad. Also, what makes it worse is that one of the people in the crowd recording uploaded the video online for the whole world to see.
Of course.
I don't recommend searching for this video at all, as it is very disturbing and not something you want to watch.
This could be the most hated woman in America. This is 66-year-old Marcella Chidester. And in April of 2024, Marcella took off driving in her vehicle, even though she was far beyond blackout drunk. Now, Marcella was a somewhat distinguished woman in her community in Michigan. She had one point been a Commodore at a place called the Swan Boat Club, a bougie area for people to park their boats, have parties, and to enjoy some time in the sun in the Michigan summer heat. However, on that terrible day in April, Marcella took off driving in her vehicle. Like I said, hammered, drunk, she left the tavern that she was at, and she was speeding through the parking lot of the boat club when she crashed through a wall. Here's a photo of the damage that she caused with her vehicle. And sadly, on the other side of that wall, a children's birthday party was being held. And unfortunately, after striking that wall and crashing into the building at a high speed, 2 children would be killed. Those kids were 8-year-old Lena Phillips and her 4-year-old brother, Zane Phillips. Both of these 2 innocent angels were pronounced dead at the scene. In addition, a 14-year-old male and 18-year-old female were both seriously injured, all because of Marcella's selfish actions. Marcella's eventual arraignment was absolutely heartbreaking and filled with so many tears from everybody that was there. Truly, the videos and photos of this event are some of the most heartbreaking I think I've ever seen. And as someone that has struggled with alcoholism in my past and kind of beaten it to a degree, stories like this really hit home for me. There's nothing more selfish in this life than getting behind the wheel of a vehicle when you're blackout drunk. It is crazy to me. And it's because of this one woman's selfish actions that there are 2 less children in the world today. And I really hope that she is persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife Courtney. It's available now on all streaming platforms.
The thing I never got, Seekers, man, is like, bro, like he said, if you think you can get that, like, you know, man, why don't you just have like a designated driver, call a Lyft or Uber? Like, there's no reason to risk your life or risk somebody else's life just because you're trying to drive home. It's never worth it, man. Stories like this make me don't even want to drink. I don't drink, but that's just another sign already of me to stay away from that type of stuff. Blurry actions like that, I stay away from that, man. Where the sky, you know, these edit, call them out when they see him, man.
The man behind me is the real-life human Dracula.
Come again?
His name is Tsutomu Miyazaki. He was born with a deformity that fused his wrists with his hands, so he was bullied a ton growing up. Then one day, later on in adulthood in 1988, something snapped in him. He started abducting little children, specifically little girls, and engaging in necrophilia. He would strangle his victims to death and then engage with their corpse. He would even go as far as removing some of their body parts like their hands and feet and even their teeth. One way that made him also very similar to Jeffrey Dahmer, he would pose these bodies in different ways and photograph them. On one of his last instances before he got caught, he drank the blood of a little girl. And then right after that, he ate her hand. One day, he was at the playground trying to take pictures of more little kids, and the father intervened and stopped him. So Mr. Dracula behind me fled on foot, naked, and was caught by the cops later on. That's when they discovered his disturbing collection of photos and body parts inside of his apartment. However, he blamed it on his alter ego named the Rat Man. They were not playing any games with this guy. They immediately sentenced him to death. The government hung him on June 17th of 2008. Let me know what you guys think about the Rat Man or Dracula in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
This is
disgusting ass case.
In 1971, he murdered his entire immediate family before escaping and starting a completely new life that he lived for more than 17 years before he was eventually caught.
How?
This is a wild story. I covered it on the latest episode of my podcast, but here's an overview. In 1951, John List married Helen Taylor, and together they had 3 children, Patricia, John Frederick, and Frederick. List had served in the Army and was an accountant with a successful career, working as a comptroller for a bank in Jersey City, New Jersey. The family lived in a 19-room mansion in Westfield, New Jersey called Breeze Knoll. And 5 of them, along with John's mother, Alma, who was also living with them, were swimming in space there. The family seemed to have a happy life here. It seemed like John was successful, and they weren't super social, but everything seemed fine. The kids were popular and hardworking, and nobody knew anything bad about the family. Behind closed doors, things were not as they seemed. Helen was an alcoholic and was extremely ill from contracting syphilis from her first husband. And John List had lost his job at the bank. But instead of telling his family, he basically went to work every day pretending that he was going to his job and coming home after work hours. And he started skimming money off of his mother's bank account to help pay the mortgage. But then on November 9th, 1971, John List would do the unthinkable. That morning, he dropped the kids off at school and returned home. When he got home, he took out one of his guns, approached his wife of almost 20 years, and shot her in the back of the head. He then went up to the attic apartment where his 84-year-old mother lived and shot her as well. When 16-year-old Patricia and 13-year-old Frederick arrived home from school, List attacked them from behind, shooting them each in the back of the head. List then made himself some lunch. He went into the bank and closed both him and his mother's accounts, and then he went to Westfield High School where he watched his middle son, John Frederick, play a soccer game. After the game, he drove 15-year-old John Frederick home. And when they got home, he attacked. John Frederick tried to fight back, but unfortunately, he ended up succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds. List then placed the bodies of Helen, Patricia, John Frederick, and Frederick on top of sleeping bags in the mansion's ballroom. He left Alma up in the attic apartment because she was too heavy to drag down. He then wrote a letter to his pastor confessing what he had done, and he wrote letters to the kids' school saying that they would be gone visiting a sick relative for a few weeks so nobody would suspect them missing. Then he walked around the house and removed every single photo of himself from all of the photo albums. Finally, he started piping religious music throughout the home, and then he left. By the time the bodies were discovered a month later, John List was long gone. And while he was the immediate main suspect in the murders, police didn't have a lot to go on, and they were unable to circulate a recent photo of him because he had removed every single photo of himself from inside the house. The family's car was found at JFK Airport, but John List went...
I seek the truth.
This is the exact reason why I stay away from ground beef right now. But he decided to recycle a bunch of chicken skeletons and make chum bucket patties. And the scariest part is when this is all done, it looked exactly like the ground beef that you and me eat. You would never be able to tell the difference. And you wonder why when they start testing the meat, they be having other types of meats inside of the ground beef. And the question that we all asking is, who the fuck is going to eat these bone burgers? These motherfucking casket whoppers. Y'all be thinking that y'all be eating motherfucking ground beef and cow and moo and shit. Come to find out, a lot of y'all ass be eating a zoo. All different types of creatures, animals, and the parts that you're not supposed to be eating. Why stuff like this really makes me tempted to go vegan. Them making my nigga grill from Big Maggie into a Whopper is absolutely diabolical. What you think you eating might not be what you really consume. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts on this bone burger in the comments. Like and follow for more wisdom and stay tuned. And if y'all want to make on how to turn y'all social media into a money printing machine, comment down below ATM. I'm gonna send a method directly to you.
I just read the...
We eating bone burgers out here, bro? Hey, you got a lie, bro. That makes you rethink, man. I like to say, I'm gonna turn you into a vegan because we don't know what the hell we eating. Bone burgers, man, it was trending out and it looked exactly like ground beef, so we gotta be aware.
full P. Diddy indictment. And while I was left with so many questions, like 1,000 bottles of baby oil, one question that a lot of people are asking is, what is a freak-off? Well, these freak-offs can be described as multiple days-long, drug-fueled, highly orchestrated sex acts, and it included many coerced victims. The indictment says that Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. These freak-offs were often recorded, and a lot of the times the victims were completely unaware of that. Through different forms of coercion, as well as supplying narcotics, the victims would engage in extended sex acts, often multiple days. After a freak-off finished, the victims would typically receive IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Now, these freak-offs didn't just happen at Combs' residence. Diddy and his associates would book hotel rooms and make sure that they were supplied in advance, which included controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, lighting, and they would often try to clean up everything at the end to mitigate room damage. I just can't wrap my head around this, needing 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Having that much on hand. Do you know how much that is? The average bottle of baby oil maybe is going to be 14 to 20 fluid ounces. What are you doing with that? Filling multiple bathtubs, a whole hot tub? That is multiple pallets of baby oil. I don't understand why someone would need or how they would need that much. Do y'all know?
Megan is
I do
not
not.
behind your dark eyes anymore.
So Megan Thee Stallion just dropped a new music video and the symbolism is dark.
Very
She
dark.
literally turns into a serpent and she consumes.
What do you think she's trying to tell us?
And then you have her dancing in front of a blood moon, and if you know anything about blood moon rituals, this has a lot of symbolism in itself. There's a lot of other little things in the music video, you can go watch it if you want, but this is the same person who was dancing at a Kamala Harris rally, helping her to get votes, and then she just drops this song. It's all connected.
Really?
To Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him on. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He'd already been to the hospital. That situation that Gein was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the devil. Does that sound like a good guy? Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like. They're not seeing what the intention was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there. Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there.
It's just all this stuff coming out with Diddy, man. It's just like everybody just like trying to connect the dots, bro. I've been seeing like they said CEOs and stuff have been freaking resigning ever since he got caught. Because, man, it's like we don't know how far back this all goes, so we're gonna be in a loop for a minute, man.
September 27th, about 11:30, I had dozed off in my recliner on the other side of this window, and I woke up with a chilling feeling like somebody was staring at me, and I looked at the TV, and then I looked at my blinds, and I saw a little bit of a movement, and I thought it was probably this tree. And then I looked again, and I saw two shiny, glowing eyes looking down at me from almost to the top of that window. And at that point, I jumped out of my recliner, turned the light off in the family room, and went to the far end of the couch and sat listening for noise. And about 10 minutes later, my dog started barking. And I went to the back door and saw she was at the fence, barking and growling. And I ran and grabbed a flashlight and went out on the sun porch, but I could not see what was out there, and she would not stop barking and growling, and she came up to me where it was and leaned against me like she was protecting me, and that spooked me, so I backed back in, locked the door, and ran upstairs to my bedroom, to the bathroom, where my window angled down where I could see with the flashlight.
Yo, what? 2024
She saw Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
They mean to tell me scientists may have found some alien megastructures. They found 7 of these things right here. This is what it looks like. The crazy part about this is what a biblically accurate angel looks like. As you can see, it has a bunch of eyes around this orb of light, and you got the wings and everything like that. But it looks very similar to this. The scientists are saying this is an abnormality. These Dyson spheres are not normal. I'm talking about these Dyson spheres showed up around 1,000 light years away from Earth. These scientists said that if we were able to get a hold of these Dyson spheres, we would have the power of having as much energy as the sun provides every second. Meaning we can do things like interstellar travel. This is crazy. They said that we can even move an entire solar system to our preferred location.
Damn.
But obviously, guys, that's never going to happen, not at least in our lifetime, because the technology and the raw materials that are needed to build this hypothetical structure is way too advanced for us, which is why they think these have something to do with another alien race or something like that. They said these Dyson spheres are so big that we don't even have enough material to build something like it, which is why this could potentially be a biblically accurate angel, because this Dyson sphere is a being that is beyond any human's comprehension. They're saying that it's almost impossible to even have the materials to build it. You know what I'm saying? It seems like something that is out of humanity's grasp at this point. And they can do unthinkable things like move an entire solar system, things that normal humans cannot do. But that's just how great God is. He can do the unthinkable. Y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments.
Was that Dyson sphere, or like you said, a biblically accurate? They said angel. That's it. I've been seeing a couple of clips of. That's what they said it looked like. So I don't know. They talk about moving solar systems and things like that. That's like power I don't think we should have.
Man filmed a face by the moon and got it all on camera. It is February 28th, 29th, 29th. I have got me a better quality camera to catch this thing in the sky. And holy moly, I am scared. I'm scared, but I'm not going to trip because I've been catching this thing for a while now. It's very ominous. There he is. There he is.
What the fuck?
There he is. There he is. It's a huge face, looking right down on us. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit brighter. There he is. There's the moon. Oh, I lost it. There it is. Let's see if I can get a better picture of the moon. It's supposed to be laying in front of
Is this an edit? What's this legit, man? You seen a face watching down on us.
There it is. Yep, there it is. There it is.
Mira, yo María Félix, lo único que tengo que decir es que fue la mujer más bella que existió en México, la que nos representó en todo el mundo, la que nos llevó, que nos dio a conocer a todos los mexicanos por su belleza, por su inteligencia, porque era una mujer muy inteligente y muy bella.
Damn, up to her face. I heard they said that was from like a BBL or something. That's what I heard when I saw the clip. Like it really, we can, I guess, transform her face that much, and it ain't worth it.
I go to titty parties, which is where people like me step in. To walk motherfuckers out! Cause ain't nobody stopping me when I come. Why would they talk about it? Who is there to go to? Who's gonna fucking help them? What HR department do you know of that works for any of these labels?
She's spitting.
When have you ever heard of a sexual harassment suit being publicly acknowledged in the entertainment industry at all? Never.
You have it.
Not in entertainment. Tupac.
Oh, okay, that one, yeah.
He was the only one.
Yeah.
You saw how that turned out.
Yeah, no, guilty.
That's why they do it. To make you an example. To remind you what they're willing to do to keep things the way they want them. It's intimidation. can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for. You could try to get a special prosecutor, but they'll just pay somebody to reassign him to another case.
Disturbing things that you should never look up on Google. Part 2. Bianca Devins was a 17-year-old from New York known for posting e-girl content to her Instagram. In April 2019, one of her followers, 21-year-old Brandon Clark, DM'd her, sparking a romantic relationship between the two. A few months later, Bianca, Brandon, and another friend of theirs named Alex attended a concert together in the Bronx. Sometime during the concert, Brandon caught Bianca kissing Alex, which led to an argument on the car ride home. Brandon eventually began assaulting her and slicing her neck with a knife that he'd hid under his seat. He then got into Bianca's phone and posted several gruesome images of her corpse to her Instagram story and released a video of the murder as well. He then posted the following picture to her page, hinting that he was. However, police were notified before he could do so, and Brandon was taken into custody and sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Bianca Devin.
I'm literally screaming because in the 1920s, this lady came up with the idea that if she made this giant skeleton with red eyes, that criminals would confess their crimes to it. Like, confess your sins to the crime skeleton.
Grandparents. Kemper bludgeoned his mother to death with a claw hammer while she slept. He then decapitated her and sexually assaulted her severed head before placing it on a shelf and using it as a dartboard. Here's Kemper in a video interview.
I cut off her head and I humiliated her corpse. It's there. You know?
Cold-blooded.
6 young women dead because of the way she raises her son and the way her son is raised, the way he grows up. And what's her closing words? I suppose you want to sit up all night and talk. God, I wish I had.
Ed Kemper is truly one of history's most terrifying serial killers.
Truly is, from what we saw in that video.
Scary Facts That Will Blow Your Mind, Part 1. The middle of nowhere is an actual place within New Mexico. The legend goes that an elderly couple lived out there with their dog and witnessed many strange and bizarre things. One night, they reported seeing a strange creature that they identified as a Skinwalker. After reporting this to the police, the family had vanished under strange circumstances. Their dog, however, was left behind. This is the story that Courage the Cowardly Dog was based off of. Like and follow.
This is a man who killed his family twice. Gregory Green is a convicted murderer who completely failed at his second chance at life. In his early 20s, he married Tanya Green. It wasn't long into the marriage that Gregory started to show some signs of abusiveness, such as jealousy, anger, and violence. While Tanya was 6 months pregnant with Gregory's child, she threatened to leave him for good once she got home. But Tanya never got the chance because as soon as she got home, Gregory stabbed her with a steak knife 10 times, killing her and their unborn child. Gregory was given a 15 to 25 year sentence in prison, and during his time there, he was denied parole 4 times. However, during his time in prison, he gained lots of support from friends and family and grew really close to a pastor named Fred Harris, who helped him find God, and he was his biggest supporter of getting him out. In 2008, Gregory was released on parole after serving 16 years in prison, and after just 2 years on parole, he was a completely free man. Shortly after that, he married his second wife, Faith Harris Green, who was the daughter of the pastor he was working with in prison. They were married for 6 years, and Faith had a 19 and 17-year-old child from a previous marriage, and Gregory and Faith had a 5 and 6-year-old child. Over the course of their marriage, Gregory started to show the same signs of abusiveness as he showed before, and Faith also tried to file a restraining order but was denied. Things got really ugly in 2016 when Gregory poisoned his 2 young children that were sleeping upstairs, took Faith to the basement, tied her to a chair, and beat her. He then brought down his stepchildren and shot them in front of her. Faith survived the encounter, and Gregory was sentenced to prison yet again and won't be eligible for parole until he's 97 years old.
This is him.
Second chance of life, and he completely wasted it by doing the same exact thing that got him in the first place. He makes people hard to give people second chances, man. Truly.
Hands down the creepiest story I've heard yet. Danielle Hawkins was a teacher, and she reportedly started to act weird in June of 2012. During summer break, she gathered up a group of her former students and told them to go to the woods with her. She claimed that she chose these students because they needed to rid themselves of demons, and that Saturday night they gathered around a small fire. Danielle informed them that they needed to cut their skin to let out the evil spirits and then burn their skin afterwards to seal the wound so they wouldn't enter back in. One of the students, she held a lighter towards their hand and the wind blew out the flame. For some reason this freaked her out and she doused his hand in perfume and then lit it on fire. Another teen was cut in the neck with a broken bottle, and what's even sadder is none of the kids felt it was safe enough to tell their parents. Police did find out through a mutual friend and then charged Danielle.
I saw Nope this weekend and I couldn't help but think that part of the story might have been inspired by true events. Travis the Chimp was an animal actor who appeared in commercials and TV. He was adopted by Sandra Harold at 3 days old and was basically raised as a child. He ate at the dinner table, did chores, wore clothes, and loved baseball. At around age 14, he started showing signs of aggression. On February 16, 2009, Sandra's close friend Charla Nash came over to help get Travis back in the house when he escaped with her car keys. She had known him since he was a baby and was holding his favorite toy, Tickle Me Elmo, when he went into a rage. He broke almost all of the bones in her face, removed one of her hands, tore off her eyelids, nose, jaw, lips, and most of her scalp. Sandra tried to stab him to stop him, but it didn't work. When police arrived, Travis was shot to death. Charla miraculously survived, but she was left permanently blind and disfigured. This was a scene that really made me
So Nope is based off that, the Travis story?
I want you to take a look at this picture, snapped from a group of friends back in 2012. Let me explain the haunting backstory behind this picture. It's not for the faint of heart. These friends are thrill seekers, right? So their thing is that they go to explore abandoned buildings all throughout their state in Illinois. But there was one town in particular that really piqued their interest because allegedly it had a madman who was still on the loose. One who police believed was responsible for several bodies that were found in this area, all with their heads missing, assuming that he took them with him. So they come to this town because they're planning to spend the night in this abandoned hospital in this picture so they can record content. But as the night goes on and things get darker, they suddenly get this eerie feeling like they're not alone in this hospital. But while they're exploring in the dark, they start snapping pictures on their phone to try to illuminate the rooms that they're in, and they finally start to explore the showers, which was where they snapped this photo, which was more than enough to scare them into leaving. They didn't know what that was, so they called police who searched the hospital and realized that's not
Artist's house, where they would do the unthinkable. They would go inside of her house wearing disguises and take this young promising girl's life in cold blood. And the scariest part about this is that they documented leading up to that day, and they also documented right after they did it.
I just killed Cassie. We just left her house. I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie.
See, this is a ridiculous case with several layers to it, and it still haunts me to this day, and that's why I made this video that I'll show you right now.
Why would you lie? And then I realized you're just as naive as I am.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but this is the story of RTD, and I will not be saying his name. This is his name, and before I get into it, thank you, Robert, for letting me tell your story. But this is the story of one of the creepiest haunted dolls ever. I'm going to be going over it in very brief detail, so if you want all the details, listen to episode 145 of my podcast. In 1904, this little boy, Robert Eugene or Gein Otto, got a present from his grandfather. Gein was really excited because this was a life-size doll and he loved it and he played with it all the time, took it everywhere with him, and was having a really good time with it. This was the doll and he named it Robert. But then Gein's grandparents started noticing some very creepy things happening around their house, including the bedroom door to Gein's room being tilted open in the middle of the night and them hearing two voices having a full-on conversation. They would also hear giggles coming from Gein's room when Gein wasn't home. And one time they heard a very loud crash, and when they went in Gein's room, everything was turned upside down and RTD was just sitting on the edge of the bed. Okay, so all of that happened, and then RTD went to a museum in Florida, and things got weirder. Weird things would happen in the museum, lights would flicker, visitors would slip and fall, but the most creepy thing is that anybody who would disrespect Robert while visiting the museum reported after their visit having experiences like illness, job losses, and other just really bad things.
Wow.
So as you can see back here, there's a whole bunch of letters because people who disrespected him while visiting the museum wrote him letters asking him to forgive them. One of the weirdest experiences was somebody who visited this museum and recorded their whole time walking through the museum, but when they got to RTD, their recording just stopped. And then when they walked away from it, it was working again. and they could not figure out why. There was no camera malfunction, no reason for that to happen. But RTD just wants his respect, he wants his privacy, people bring him candy, things that he enjoys, and I just want to say thank you, Robert, for letting me tell your story, and you are amazing. I can't believe I'm actually telling this story, but here's the spooky season.
Robert the doll. Sounds like a spade you don't want to mess with.
On the evening of September 10th, 2002, 31-year-old Miroslav Kuklish was entering an underwater cave off the coast of Croatia, trying to catch up with his 4 dive buddies. Nothing to do with this cave, he was just going to go on an open water night dive. So they said okay, and they went without him. Unbeknownst to Miroslav, as soon as the 4 had entered this 2-meter wide hole in the bottom of the ocean, they had immediately recognized it was well beyond their skill level, and they had turned around and gotten right out of there. Unbeknownst to them, though, Miroslav had made the exact opposite decision, and as soon as he got in the water, he went right down to the cave entrance and barreled down after him, and I mean, he really went for it. Now, the way that this cave is set up is there's a 15-meter deep chute, which leads to 2 different passageways, which lead to 2 different underwater caverns, the shallower one, or the upper gallery, and the deeper one, the lower gallery. The bottom of the lower gallery is about 54 meters or 180 feet deep. Okay, so what Miroslav does is he dives down this 15-meter corridor. Now, bear in mind, the walls are super narrow in these corridors, and you're kicking up silt the whole time, so you can't see anything. And where the 3 meet, it's almost impossible to tell which is which, because again, you can't see, and unless you know this cave like the back of your hand, I mean, being underwater is really disorienting. You don't know if you're going to the deep one, the shallow one, or up to the exit. It's kind of just a guess if you don't really know the cave. So he goes immediately down, and he goes immediately into the deep gallery. He makes it all the way down to 165 feet before he realizes he needs to turn around and get out of there. So he makes his ascent back up, and he makes his way back up to where the 3 separate again. And he needs to find the exit. But instead of finding the exit, he goes into the shallow gallery. And now he is running out of air, and he really needs to find the exit. So he goes back up to where they all 3 separate, and he's doing this probably mostly by feel now, because again, with the silt, you can't see. So he has a 50-50 shot. But instead of picking the exit, he picks the way he just came from, and he goes back down into the deep gallery. And at this point, we know when he hits the deep gallery again, he runs out of air. And he finds that shallow air pocket at the top of the deep gallery, but he's only got a few minutes of air in that little pocket, and he knows that. We know he was there for 5 minutes from his dive computer. Around a few minutes after this, we know this from the autopsy report. A police diver would also drown trying to recover his body.
Do you remember the show Wife Swap? They take 2 families who couldn't be more opposite and switch the mothers for 2 weeks. But have you ever heard of the Wife Swap murders?
No.
The Stockdale family appeared on the show in 2008. Tim and Kathy Stockdale lived on a rural farm in Ohio with their 4 sons, Calvin, Charles, Jacob, and James. Kathy and Tim were extremely strict with their sons. They were homeschooled and expected to run their family farm. Video games and TV were not allowed. Instead, the boys would earn tokens so they could listen to their favorite radio programs. And those programs had to be pre-approved by Tim or Kathy. The boys were also not allowed to date. Their social life was pretty limited. But they would tour together as a family in a bluegrass band. June 15th of 2017, 911 operators would receive a hang-up call. Police responded to the Stockdale farm where the call had originated from. When they arrived at the farm, they heard a gunshot. When they gained entry into the house, they found the youngest son James and his mother Kathy dead of a gunshot wound. After several surgeries and extensive rehabilitation, Jacob recovered. It was obvious that Jacob had pulled the trigger, but no real motive has ever been found. The oldest 2 boys had gotten married and moved out. That left Jacob and James at home with their parents. After Jacob had recovered enough, they indicted him on murder charges. And in April of 2021, Jacob pled guilty to 2 counts of murder. Jacob's father, Tim, asked the judge to go easy on him, but despite this, he was given 2 15-year sentences that were to run consecutively. Jacob will be eligible for parole in 2048. So do you think 30 years is enough time? Let me know in the comments and follow for more true crime.
I have no idea how TikTok isn't talking about this, but there's an active case that is eerily similar to the Casey Anthony case. On October 5th of this year, 20-month-old Quinton Simon was reported missing from his home in Savannah, Georgia. Early on the morning he went missing, his babysitter was texted saying, "Hey, we don't need you to watch Quinton today." But then a few hours later, the babysitter gets a text saying, "Have you seen Quinton?" So obviously the babysitter goes over to help look for Quinton, and she asks the mother, "Have you called the police?" And the mother, Leilani, had not called the police. Shortly after that, a police report was filed and Quinton was declared missing. But it gets crazier. For some background, Quinton and his mother Leilani lived with their family in the grandmother's home. That is, until their family was evicted by the grandmother. The grandmother was also awarded custody of Leilani's children. So Quinton was growing up amidst chaos, and it was apparent he was being neglected. His babysitter had told the grandmother time and time again, "Quinton is being neglected." He would show up in dirty diapers, hungry, with bruises. All signs of child neglect. It kind of seems like this babysitter is the only one who ever really had an eye out for this baby. And that's why it's so crazy that days after Quinton went missing, the grandmother shows up to the babysitter's house screaming at her, asking where Quinton is, implying that she took the baby. But it gets crazier. After Quinton had been missing for about a week, someone on Facebook received a message from Leilani's mother saying, "Quinton is dead. He is in a landfill. My daughter did it, but doesn't remember it." And shortly after this, the police department made a statement saying, "We have reason to believe Quinton is in a landfill and our prime suspect is Leilani, his mother." I forgot to mention, it was trash day when Quinton went missing, and the mother waited to call the police till the trash came. But it gets crazier. All trash going to this landfill was immediately redirected, and on the same day, the search began in the landfill for Leilani's son's body. Her mother, and some friends went to a local restaurant, rang up a $300 tab full of alcohol and food, and they were hooting and hollering and flirting with waiters. That info comes from people who were at the restaurant. So not only is your son missing, but your mother said that you did it and threw him away, and now you guys are out at dinner getting drunk while the police are looking for him? Does anyone remember what Casey Anthony was doing while her daughter was missing? But it continues to get crazier. There are currently protesters parked in front of this house, just like we saw in the Petito case, trying to get justice for this baby because Leilani is still walking free and they haven't found Quinton. The family has parked out front with lawn chairs, and it's seeming that they're getting more confident that Leilani is not going to get charged. On one of the days, the grandmother put a disco ball out front to taunt the protesters. I don't know. And what's nuts is I haven't even mentioned half of the other weird things that are going on with this family. For example, Quinton was named after his uncle, Leilani's brother, who is in prison for murder. I'm going to continue to update on this case, but would you guys be interested in hearing some other stuff that's going on in it? I literally cannot fit it in a 3-minute video.
That case has twists and turns, man. Just straight diabolical, bro. That they doing that to that he was doing that to the protesters, man. Because they didn't lock her up for what she did. Just taunting them. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you guys are true seekers, man. Thank you guys for sticking with me today. Make sure you guys comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button, man. Also, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.